So my parents have just received their visitor visa approval for Canada. The whole process took less than a month from submission of the application to receiving their stamped passports. So in this video, we'll cover a general overview of the process, the list of forms and documents required, and where to actually apply for Canada visitor visa. So you may already know that there is a new IRCC portal which you can use to apply for your visitor visa. A lot of students have been using it lately to apply for their study permits, but the old portal, which is the GCK account or your MyCIC or IRCC secure account, that's also still working. So a lot of people are confused which ones should they choose. Should they choose the new portal or the GCK route? So here's a simple answer. Both work just fine. You can use either one. It's just that with the new portal, it's a little bit more AI based and supposedly quicker. Not quicker in the timeline, quicker in the sense that it allows you to do the application much more efficiently and quickly. But it also has its limitations. For example, the file size in the new portal is limited. I believe it is 2 megabytes at this point, whereas the GCK portal has 4 megabytes per document. So there's more room in the GCK portal for you to compress, combine, merge your documents. And secondly, the new portal is more AI based. So that means that when you do your application, when you provide your answers in the new portal, AI is making a lot of decisions for you before your application reaches an officer. So just like with any pilot program, the new portal is still being tested and it will continue to get better over time, and then it will become more reliable. Whereas the GCK has stood the test of time, it is reliable, and you can use the GCK. I did the application for my parents using the GCK, and like I said, everything was done in less than 20 days. This video is going to be about the GCK because that's the one that I use for my parents, but you can use the same logic, most of the same logic in the new portal as well, okay? So here's the IRCC secure account page or the GCK page. I'm going to link it in the description below so you can directly navigate to this page. And what I did was to create an account under my dad's name using his email address. Just to keep things simple, I created my dad's own account. And it doesn't have to be your dad, it can be your mom. Any one primary applicant who's the primary applicant in the application can create the account. And in this case, it was my dad. And since I managed the whole application for my mom and dad, I was their unpaid representative. And that's why I had to provide some additional form, which we are going to talk about as we go along this video. So once signed in, scroll down and under start an application, you can click on apply to come to Canada. For personal reference code, you can simply ignore this. Scroll down and you'll select this first option, visitor visa, study or work permit. Obviously, this is visitor visa. And this will start the application. So the way it works is when two people are applying together, my mom and dad in this case, my dad becomes the principal applicant and my mom is being added as a secondary applicant in his application. And that's how you account for two people who are applying together. So first we'll determine the eligibility for my dad, and then eventually we will add the documents and forms for both my mom and dad, right? So right now we are going to be answering these questions on behalf of my dad, who's the principal applicant. So what would you like to do in Canada? So the answer is obviously visit. How long are you planning to stay? Temporarily less than 6 months. Select the code that matches the one on your passport. So my dad is from India, so IND. What is your current country of residence? So it is India. And then it asks, do you have a family member who's a Canadian citizen or permanent resident and is 18 years or older? So obviously I am his family, my dad's family, and I am a permanent resident of Canada, and I am obviously more than 18 years old. But I am still not considered a family member because if you click on family member, it tells you that an applicant's closest relatives in the context of an IRCC application, who are either the spouse or common law partner, dependent children, and their dependent children. So I am his child for sure, but I'm not considered a dependent because if you look at the definition of the dependent child, it has to be under 22 years of age and not a spouse or common law partner. I am neither of those things. I'm 34 and I am a spouse of someone. So in that case, this answer becomes no. Now, obviously, if you're under 22 and you are not married, then you will select yes. This is where I simply enter the date of birth of my dad. Have you lived in Canada as a permanent resident? So this is no. Again, all these questions are for my dad. Are you a lawful permanent resident of the US? So this doesn't apply to him. What is your marital status? So yes, married. What is your province of destination? So here you can just select the province where you are visiting your family. I live in Ontario, so my dad would select Ontario. And based on the selections that we just made, it gives you the result that you qualify for visitor visa under 6 months. So now we can continue the application process. Next is what is the main purpose of your visit? So if you drop this down, you see a bunch of options here, and for majority of the candidates, two options will apply, either the visit family or friends option or the tourism option. So if you select tourism, then the advantage is that you have to provide fewer documents. It's a slightly easier process. So a good way to think about this is if your parents have a good international travel history, strong financial position and assets and property under their name, they can actually apply under the tourism category, minimize the number of documents to submit, and have a smoother application. And when I talk about international travel history, I mean travel to United States, UK, Australia, not Dubai, Thailand, or Bangkok. For example, if your parents have a valid US visa at this point, US tourist visa, or they have had a valid visa in the past and they have done frequent travel to US, and they have a strong financial position back home, that basically tells the officer that this person has done international travel to US or UK or Australia and has come back, meaning this person has been compliant, and during his or her stay, they did not depend on the government, they were able to take care of themselves. So that makes for a strong candidate for tourism category. But let's say your parents are retired and their financial position is not too good, but decent, okay, and they have had no international travel in the past, and their sole purpose is to visit you, who is in Canada, their son or daughter. In that case, it would make more sense for you to apply under the visit friends or family category for your parents, because that would be a much more logical choice. Yes, you will have to provide more documents in visit friends or family category, but this would also make for a more convincing case. For the purpose of this video, we'll stick with this visit friends or family category because this would be the option that would be applicable to majority of the people out there. Then, do you have proof of relationship with the person who's inviting you? So yes, you will have proof of relationship. Do you have a job in the country where you currently live? So if you're employed, you hit yes, and then you may have to provide employment documents. My dad is a businessman. He's a doctor actually, so he has his own private practice that's still considered business. So I'm going to hit no here, and under business, I'm going to select yes. Do you depend on someone for financial support? In this case, it's no. Have you traveled to other countries in the previous 10 years? So yes, my dad has, so I'm going to select yes. Then are you accompanying a family member that has status in Canada or has recently been approved to come to Canada? So basically what this means is my dad coming to Canada with someone who already has a status in Canada or has already been approved? So he's coming with my mom, but neither of them have any status in Canada, so this option is simply going to be no. Have you committed, been arrested? No. Have you had a medical exam? So this would be no. Do you want to submit an application for a family member? So this would be yes, because my dad also wants to apply for his wife, my mom. What country does your family member live in? So now we are talking about my mom's information here. So my mom also lives in India, so I'm going to select India. Which country issued your family member's passport? So again, this was India. Is your family member a PR of US? No. Then what is your family member's current marital status? So this would be married. Then date of birth of my mom. And then my mom is also going to be traveling to Ontario because they are both going to be visiting me. Then why is your family member visiting Canada? So you can just select visit all other types and you should be fine. Does your family member want to apply for a parent and grandparent super visa? At this point, my mom and dad are not interested in that. Committed, arrested? No. Medical exam for my mom? She hasn't had that, so no. In the past 10 years, have they given fingerprints? So they haven't. Yes, I'll be paying the application fees. Do you want to submit an application for another family member, meaning the third family member? There's no such family member, so just hit no. Are you giving someone access to your application? So now, because I am managing my mom and dad's application, this would be a yes. And because I am also going to correspond with IRCC on their behalf, meaning I would receive status updates or respond to any additional documents if IRCC were to request them. And that's why the first option, yes, I will be appointing a representative to apply on my behalf, should be selected, because I am the representative, the unpaid representative who's applying on my mom and dad's behalf. Did your representative give you a submission letter? So this is not required because I'm an unpaid representative, so just hit no. In the past 10 years, have you given your fingerprints? So this would be no. So yes, I'll be paying my application fees. Are you able to make a digital copy? Yes. Will you be paying your application fees online? Yes. And then basically you review your answers once again, just make sure everything is correct, and then it just gives you some basic instructions which we'll talk about as we go along. So hit continue here, and then here is the document checklist, basically all the documents and forms that my mom and dad should provide. So let's do a brief overview of the forms first, and then we'll talk about the documents. Alright, so the first form is the application for visitor visa, or 5257. So you're required to fill this out for your dad as well as for your mom. So there are two versions of this form that you'll have to fill out. So you're just going to click this and hit this download button, and then go back to your downloads or desktop folder and open it from there. That's how you'll have to open this form. Here's the application form, and this will be for my dad. So all his information has to be populated here. So it's pretty straightforward. If you don't have a UCI, simply leave it blank. And then all these things are very simple to fill out. Personal details, name, date of birth, place of birth, citizenship, all very easy to fill out. Current country or territory of residence. So this is where my dad currently is. So this would be India. Country or territory where applying. So this means that where is the principal applicant applying from. So my dad is applying from India, and that's why it's going to be yes, because it's the same as the country of residence. Then marital status, details about the spouse, pretty straightforward. Continue. And then there's more personal details. So answer these questions truthfully and honestly. Passport number, national identity document, all this fairly easy to fill out. Then under contact information, this is important. So it says here, if you wish to authorize the release of information from your application to a representative, which is me in this case, then indicate their email address and mailing address in this section. So this mailing address section is basically going to be the address of the representative, unpaid representative in this case, which would be my address. Then in the residential address would be the address of my dad where he's currently living. So obviously he's living in India. So he's going to provide his residential address here. And then under email address, again, this would be my email address because I am the representative. And once I provide my email address here, then all the communications such as biometrics request or passport request will come to me. And then I can work with my mom and dad to get that arranged. All right. Then if you scroll down, details about the visit to Canada. So again, purpose of the visit, you can simply write family visit here and then indicate how long. So what I did was I simply indicated 1 month. So what I put was December 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. It's advisable to keep this short so as not to arouse any suspicion. Obviously, you are able to stay as long as your visa is valid, but it is better to put a short duration here. Then funds available for your stay. So I mentioned $5,000 here, just taking into account how much my mom and dad are going to be spending in 1 month traveling around here. Obviously, they might spend more or less, but take a number which makes sense for you. Okay, so which makes sense for your mom and dad, and then provide that number here because you will have to provide supporting financial documents down the line. Then name, address and relationship of any person or institution you will visit. So this is where my address is going to be provided and my contact details because they are visiting me. Then provide educational and employment details for my dad. Then scroll down under background information. Answers to pretty much all of these questions are going to be no. And this is a very important section, signature of the applicant. So this is where your dad, the principal applicant, has to type their full name exactly as per their passport in this box provided. And then here you simply drop this down and select the date. You don't have to print this form out and hand sign it because it messes with the form and the barcodes. Typing your name digitally using your keyboard would be the best option. And then once everything's done, you hit this validate button. Don't forget to click this. It's going to generate these barcodes here, and this is an important step. So that's why I told you not to print this form out and hand sign it because then if you scan it back, it ruins the barcodes. So hit validate, generate barcodes, then click on file, save this and come back to the GCK portal and simply upload this saved 5257 for your dad right here. Similarly, if I scroll down, I have another 5257 and this one is for the family member, in this case my mom. So again, similar process, click this, download it and fill it out for your mom. So all the information about your mom. Then mom signs the signature section, again using the same method, using the keyboard, types her name exactly as per passport, then generate barcode, save the form, and then come back here and upload it right here, okay? The next up is the family information form 5645. This is also required from both the applicants, my dad as well as my mom. That's why you see 5645 twice. So you simply click this, it opens in another window, you select visitor here, and then you start providing information about your dad. So for example, under section A, there are fields for applicant, spouse, mother, and father. So for applicant is my dad, so he's going to provide his information. So his name, his marital status, country of birth, his date of birth, his present address and occupation. Then under spouse or common law partner, he's going to provide all the same information about my mom. And in this box, will accompany you to Canada, he's going to check this box. Yes, because my mom is going to accompany my dad to Canada. Then this information is about my dad's mother and dad's father, and these boxes will be no because they are not going to be accompanying him to Canada. Then scroll down under section B. This is my information because I am his child and I'm the only child, so only one row will be utilized. Same information, name, marital status, relationship, so this would be son. Then my date of birth, my country of birth, my present address in Canada and my present occupation. And obviously I'm not going to be accompanying him to Canada. Similarly for brothers and sisters of my dad. So all the brothers and sisters that your dad has, provide their information here. And obviously they're not going to be accompanying you to Canada, so all this will be no. Scroll down and this is where your dad will have to sign. So if you open this form in Google Chrome, it might not allow you to sign. Even if you open this in Adobe, it might not allow you to sign like that. So what you can do is simply send this form to your dad. Once it is filled out, he can print it out, he can sign it, hand sign it, and then he can scan it and send it back to you, and then you upload it back to the GCK portal. You'll do the same thing for your mom. So again, if you go back to the GCK portal under family members, if you scroll down, 5645 is listed here. So simply open this, fill this out, your mom signs it, completes all the information, sends it back to you, and then you upload it here. Next up is use of a family member representative for online applications 5713. And this form will be required in this case, especially when there are multiple people applying at the same time. So my mom and dad are applying at the same time, so one person becomes the family member representative. And this is basically going to be my dad's form because he is going to be the family member representative. So section A is about the representative. So this is where you type the full name of your dad, so last name and given name and date of birth, and then information on the family members. So this is where you type the full name exactly as per passport of your mother, and this is the relationship, so it would be spouse, and the date of birth of the mother. Then section B, granting permission. So this is where my mom is going to sign this form and date it, and that would give permission to my dad to act as a family member representative. So I filled this out and then sent it to my parents. My mom then signed it here and dated it. And then under section C, declaration of family member representative, my dad also signed it and dated it, and he simply scanned it and sent it back to me. And then you come back here and then you upload that file here. So I told you I was acting as the unpaid representative for this application. So this form 5476 will also have to be filled out because a representative is involved. So here's the representative form. Section A is for applicant. So this is where my dad's last name and first name is going to come. Then my dad's date of birth. Then all this is going to be blank. Section B is appointment of representative. So this is where my last name and my first name has to be typed in because I am the representative and I am the uncompensated representative, friend or family member. So you're going to check this box. Then scroll down and this would be representative's contact information. So my name and my mailing address, my email address, all information about me should be populated here. Then if you scroll down, this is the section for declaration. So this is where I, the representative, will sign and date it. And finally, section D, your declaration. So again, my dad is going to sign here and date it. And this section, signature of spouse or common law partner for sponsorship application, is not really going to apply because this is not a sponsorship application. It's a simple visitor visa application. So you can leave this blank. So again, what I did was I filled this out, sent this to my dad. He printed it out, signed it, scanned it, and sent it back to me via email. And then I did the same thing. I hand signed it. And once all the signatures were done, simply uploaded it in the 5476 section here. Alright, so supporting documents. So before you begin uploading, make sure you familiarize yourself with these instructions under step 3. They will tell you what kind of documents are acceptable, what formats and what file size are acceptable. For example, PDF, JPG, PNG, doc and docx are acceptable, and the file size should not be greater than 4 megabytes. If it is, then you will have to do some compression to bring it to less than 4 megabytes. So first we'll talk about the supporting documents for dad, the principal applicant, and then we can talk about the supporting documents for mom, which are fairly limited. Alright, so first up is business registration. And the reason it showed up here is because we answered yes to business when we were answering questions in the beginning to determine eligibility. If you had answered yes to the job question, then the ongoing employment related document option would show up here. So since my dad practices medicine, what I did was to upload a scan of his license to practice medicine with registration number and everything. If your dad or whoever parent is the principal applicant is employed and working for a company, then you can upload the offer letter or salary slips and that will also work just fine. So next up is passport. This is the passport of the principal applicant, my dad in this case. Basically what I did was to take scans of the front page, meaning the first page, the last page of my dad's passport and any pages that had stamps in between, combined all that into a single PDF document and uploaded it here. So next up is invitation letter. So now this invitation letter is required from the person who's inviting the parents. In this case, it's me because I'm inviting my parents. So I have to write a letter of invitation with all the important details. In order to write an invitation letter, you can refer to this page. This is an official IRCC page where they've given instructions on how you can write this letter. So you can divide this letter into 2 sections. The first section is about the person you are inviting. So this is your parents. Then in the second section of the letter, I will include details about myself, the person inviting my parents. So the easiest way to write this letter is to use a Word document or even a Google document. For example, this is my Google Drive and I'm going to click on New, hit Google Documents, and it's going to give me a blank document. As you can see, I've already written a sample letter, which pretty much is the template that I used. And I'm going to link this sample letter of invitation in the description below. So you can use it for reference, find it in the description box. And once I'm done with this letter, I am simply going to drag and drop the image of the PR card, proof of status of the person inviting here. Then I hit File and download as PDF. And that pretty much completes the entire letter of invitation. Alright, so next up is marriage license or certificate. So if your parents have a marriage certificate from before, which is in English or French, then you can definitely upload it here. But my guess is most of your parents are not going to have a marriage certificate. Even my parents did not have a marriage certificate. That's fine. In that case, what you can do is upload a scan of the passport page that has a spouse section. You can also upload insurance policies identifying your mom and dad as each other's spouse. Alright, so next up is digital photo. So pretty straightforward. If your parents have a passport photo, just scan it, scan the front and simply upload it here. That should work just fine. And if passport photo is not available, that's fine. You can also do it yourself. So basically ask your parents to take their own photo using their smartphone or cameras against a white background, good lighting, no smiling. And you can actually click this question mark to find out detailed instructions about what format and what size they're looking for. And these photos that you see on the screen are the photos of my mom and dad that I uploaded. They actually took these photos themselves at home against a white background, good lighting, no smiling, using their smartphones. They sent those photos to me, I did some cropping and I simply uploaded them here. Alright, so next up is purpose of travel. So if you click on this question mark, it tells you that you must submit proof that you're coming to Canada for a temporary visit. This is important. Now, my guess is a lot of people are not going to have these documents, and that's fine. If you don't have this document, you can simply write another letter of explanation and explain your purpose of travel with all the necessary details in that letter and then simply upload it here. It will work just fine as long as you can make a convincing case. So for example, here are a few things that you can talk about in the purpose of travel letter for your parents. You can mention the intent, so the reason they're visiting, that's to visit you. And then their travel itinerary or the places that they plan to visit. That just gives the officer an idea on what they plan to do in Canada, where they are going to stay, how long are they going to stay. And then most importantly, you can mention ongoing commitments back home, employment related or business related, which will be significant enough to pull your parents back home. For example, if your dad is employed, then you can mention the employment leave that he has taken and his employment details, and you can provide employment leave certificate or any document in support of that. If your dad has ongoing business, then obviously you can provide business registration certificate and talk about that here in this letter. You can also get an accountant to get the property or whatever assets your dad owns back home evaluated, and then you can attach a copy of the evaluation report, and then you can talk about that report in this purpose of travel. If your parents are renting an apartment back home, then you can mention the details about the lease and you can attach the lease as a supporting document. The idea is to prove to the officer that your parents are only going to be here temporarily and they have strong reasons, whether family related or financial, which will pull them back to their home country. So all these documents you will provide as supporting documents, and you will talk about those documents in the purpose of travel letter that you can write. I've also written a purpose of travel letter as a sample, and I put that in the description so you can use it as reference. And by the way, if you can't upload all the documents related to purpose of travel here, then you can upload those documents in the client information section here also. That's why they have given this section for optional documents. For any documents that you need for which you don't find a category here, you can just upload them here. You just have to combine all those into a single document because it won't allow you to upload multiple documents. Next up is travel history. So because my dad has had a fair share of international travel in the past 10 years, basically what I did was to provide scans of all these stamps on his passport in the past 10 years. And this also includes his old passport. And I did the same thing for my mom as well. Alright, so next up is financial support. If you click this question mark, it basically tells you under temporary residence all the documents that you can use as support. So what I submitted was previous 2 years of income tax return for my dad and his past 6 months of bank statement, and that was enough. Next up is proof of relationship. So this proof of relationship is the relationship that my dad has with me. So for this, what I can do is upload my birth certificate, which will have my name and the details of my parents. I can also upload the scan of my passport page where there are sections for name of my mother and name of my father. That will also work as proof of relationship to the person who's inviting. Then if you scroll down under family members, so now this section is for my mom. So again, the documents are pretty similar. Passport, digital photo, we just talked about that, and any other additional or optional documents that you want to upload, you can upload under the client information section. Just make sure to label them correctly so that they are easy to understand when the officer looks at them, okay? And then once you do the uploads, this option to pay is going to appear here, and then it's simply going to ask you to give consent. So basically select I agree here, and this is where type the full name as per passport. So because this is primarily my dad's application, my dad's full name exactly as it appears in his passport will have to be typed, and then you proceed. Then it's going to take you to a payment portal page. Simply pay using your credit card, and then once you're done, it's going to give you this message and you are good to go. Then once the application reaches the officer, they are going to review it. If everything looks okay, they are going to issue you instructions for the next steps. Most likely it's going to start with biometrics request. I am going to cover all that biometrics and passport request in the next video, so stay tuned.